The East Coast. We'll take that all day. This is Fox and Friends First on this Monday morning. I'm Rob Schmidt.
And I'm Jillian Mealy. Thank you for starting your day with us. And let's begin with this. The battle now over. Senator Bill Nelson conceding to Republican Rick Scott in the race for Florida Senate.
And overnight, the elections official overseeing the recount in Broward County reportedly resigned. Griff Jenkins is live in Fort Lauderdale with the very latest this morning. Hey, Griff.
Good morning, Rob and Jillian. You know, she lost 2,000 ballots. She missed deadlines by 2 minutes, and she failed to report accurate election night numbers. But now we know Dr. Brenda Snipes has reportedly resigned, according to the Sun Sentinel newspaper. It is expected to take effect January 2nd, and now Governor-elect Ron DeSantis will have an opportunity to appoint someone new. She was put there in 2003 by then Governor Jeb Bush. A reign coming to an end after covering this mess for several days. But that's on the heels of the big news, and that is, of course, after 18 years in the Senate, Bill Nelson conceding in a video statement after losing by 10,033 votes to Rick Scott. Take a listen.
I was not victorious in this race, but I still wish to strongly reaffirm the cause for which we fought. A public office is a public trust.
That public trust now going to Senator-elect Rick Scott, who penned an op-ed for FoxNews.com saying, "Now the voters of Florida have spoken, and I am honored to serve as our state's next senator and share Florida's success with the entire nation. With a heated campaign season behind us, it's time for our leaders to come together, roll up their sleeves, and get something done for families across America. It's time to make Washington work." Finally, Democrats didn't totally come up empty. They won a big statewide election in the Commissioner for Agriculture. Rob, Jillian?
Oh, man, a lot to unpack there. Thank you very much, Griff. A Fox News alert, at least 80 people are dead and more than 1,200 still missing in California's devastating wildfires. A candlelight vigil held in Northern California to honor the 77 victims of the Camp Fire. And Pope Francis sending a special prayer to everyone affected by the fires burning around the state. Heavy rain in this week's forecast could bring some relief, but there's a new risk of flooding and mudslides in already devastated areas.
Hunters told to be on the lookout for clues about a missing teenager. Jamie Kloss vanished a month ago on the night that her parents were murdered in their Wisconsin home. Local sheriff's deputies want neighbors to alert them to anything suspicious like clothes or weapons as hunting season gets underway there. Investigators have previously said they think that Jamie is still alive. There is a $50,000 reward for information leading to her rescue in this mystery.
Today, Saudi Arabia's King Salman will give his first address since the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. It's unclear whether he'll talk about the Washington Post columnist. Khashoggi was murdered and dismembered at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul last month. President Trump says he won't listen to a recording of that brutal killing.
It's a suffering tape. It's a terrible tape. I've been fully briefed on it. There's no reason for me to hear it. In fact, I said to the people, should I? They said, you really shouldn't. There's no reason. I know everything that went on in the tape without having to.
The CIA concluded that the Saudi crown prince ordered Khashoggi's death, something the Saudi kingdom denies.
All right, Democratic leader Adam Schiff is publicly denouncing President Trump's pick for acting attorney general.
I think the appointment is unconstitutional. Constitutionally, it has to be subject to confirmation. I think they lose that case when it goes to the Supreme Court.
All right, Schiff says Matt Whitaker's appointment needs Senate confirmation. He vows to fight this temporary appointment, calling Whitaker a threat to the Mueller investigation. The president is defending his choice. House Democrats already preparing to launch a long list of investigations when power does shift in their favor in January. But Maria Bartiromo, host of Mornings with Maria here on the Fox Business Network, says there are still several positives about a Republican-controlled Senate.
Keeping with that idea of the majority in the Senate, the other positive about that is the president is going to be able to get all his confirmations through.
Right.
He's got the majority in the Senate. He's going to get a new AG. He's going to get new cabinet members, and they will breeze through the Senate, I think, if they have merit, because of the Republican majority there. So that's the good news there. The bad news is that all you're hearing, Steve, on the other side is investigation after investigation after investigation. I think the good news is that's all that's going to to happen. Infrastructure, big policy mistake could be if the president looks and tries to scramble to find something to agree with the Democrats on, comes up with a $2 trillion infrastructure plan and adds to the debt, because that's only going to come back to haunt them. So I think we do need an infrastructure plan. However, you have to really watch the costs here and taking on too much debt. We're already at $21 trillion, as you know.
President Trump will test his agenda against the new Congress when members officially take office this January.
Week 2 of the El Chapo trial begins in New York City today, and according to court documents, the president of Mexico is expected to be accused of taking bribes from the infamous drug lord. One of El Chapo's former cartel associates will testify that Enrique Peña Nieto took at least $6 million in hush money. He has denied the claims.
Whoa. President Trump and First Lady Melania will receive the national Christmas tree at the White House today. The nearly 20-foot-tall, 800-pound Fraser fir chosen from a farm in North Carolina.
It is scheduled to arrive at the White House around 1 o'clock Eastern time, but won't be lit up until next Wednesday. And the holidays are upon us, but a bitter cold blast could snarl some Thanksgiving travel plans.
Janice Dean is tracking the threats that we all need to know about on this busy travel weekend.
Yes, it's here finally, right? Okay, so we do have a couple of things to take note of. Not any huge systems that are going to plague the whole country, but we are watching for cold air across the Northeast and a system to move into the West. So right now, Rob mentioned it's a little warm. It feels a little relatively warmer here in New York than it did last week. Past 24 hours, we do have a little bit of lake effect snow happening. Interior Northeast sections, that's where we could see some snowflakes across the northern plains, and then some scattered showers across Texas. Now, the West Coast is going to have to be a little concerned for heavy rainfall. So yes, it's a good news story because they need the rain across California, but bad news because it's going to bring the potential for flooding, especially over the burn areas. All of this water just has nowhere to go, so it's going to just continue to potentially inundate some of these areas and bring the potential for flash flooding. There's your forecast today, and just a quick look at your travel forecast as we head into Wednesday. No major huge systems to watch for. Much of the country is pretty quiet, with exception to maybe New England, the Great Lakes, and then we'll watch that system for the West Coast, of course.
Hopefully a real quick end to fire season, a very abrupt and quick end.
It's a good news, bad news.
Yeah.
Yes, they need the moisture, but it's going to cause the potential for flooding and mudslides.
All right, thank you, Janice.
Thanks.
You got it.
Let's talk Week 11 in the NFL. The Chicago Bears picking up a huge division win on Sunday Night Football.
Rolling that way, keeps his eyes downfield, throws a little low, and it is Anthony Miller.
Oh, look at that. QB Mitch Trubisky and the Bears defense holds off the Minnesota Vikings 25-20.
Really scary sight, though, in Washington. The Redskins quarterback Alex Smith carted off the field with a badly broken leg. He is done for the season, maybe longer. The Redskins lose 23-21 in Houston.
Yeah, but this, I don't know what happened. So the defending Super Bowl champs just going down the toilet, really. The Philadelphia Eagles stomped by the Saints in New Orleans 48-7. Rob, I woke up and I checked the score and I was like, whoa, it's a good thing I wake up early because I couldn't watch it.
Why don't they bring the Foles kid back?
Kid? I don't know. I mean, Carson Wentz is their quarterback. Foles is the backup.
Foles won the Super Bowl.
I know.
Just saying. 10 minutes after the hour, a Fox News alert. Tensions boiling over near Tijuana. Hundreds of residents taking to the streets protesting the massive migrant caravan, the brand new warning from the president.
And the president dropping a major hint on the Russia probe.
We gave very, very complete answers to a lot of questions that I shouldn't have even been asked. I hope it solves the problem.
So what does this mean for the future of the Mueller investigation? Former DOJ official Hans von Spakovsky weighs in live next.
Send me on my way. Send me on my way.
If Whitaker decides in any way to limit or curtail the Mueller investigation, are you okay with that?
Look, it's going to be up to him. I think he's very well aware politically. I think he's astute politically. He's a very smart person. I really believe he's going to do what's right.
Well, that's going to get a lot of attention from the media. President Trump defending acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker as Democrats demand his recusal from the Bob Mueller probe.
But our next guest argues there is no evidence to support the left's calls. Former DOJ official and senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation, Hans von Spakovsky, joins us now to explain. Hans, go ahead. Why do you make that argument?
Well, if you look at the actual regulations that govern conflicts of interest, Matt Whitaker doesn't have one. He's being criticized because when he was a private citizen, before he went to work at DOJ, he said that there was no obstruction of justice charge to be had here. That's actually true. Remember, it's DOJ's long-held position that a sitting president cannot be criminally indicted or charged. So all he did was relate actually what the policy is of the Justice Department. He's also been criticized for saying, well, he saw scant evidence that there had been any collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russian government, again, when he was a private citizen. Well, again, factually, that's correct. To date, Mueller has turned up no evidence of any kind of any collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russian government. Yep. So there's no conflict here.
Yeah, and I mean, this may be a witch hunt, as the president says. You're right that they haven't turned up a lot of evidence, and it hasn't been going that well for the probe. At least nothing's leaking out, which is surprising. But why go around Rod Rosenstein for deputy AG? I mean, for AG, if he's the deputy, isn't he next in line? I mean, I think that's what is concerning to everybody that believes in this investigation.
Yeah, but look, there's nothing that unusual about a president making an appointment like this. Don't forget, remember, at the beginning of the Trump campaign, when they came in, they didn't trust the Obama appointees at the top of the pyramid who were still there, like Sally Yates and others, and they appointed a U.S. attorney to be the acting AG. And I don't think anyone questioned at that time the fact that they went down into the ranks of the U.S. attorney's offices to put an appointment in.
As we know, Hans, the president has been answering a lot of questions that should be wrapped up soon. They should be turned in soon, to our knowledge anyway. Once that happens, do you think this will finally be over at some point shortly thereafter?
Yeah, I think so, and I'll tell you why. Look, the standard operating procedure of the Justice Department when they are investigating a large operation is they start with the employees down at the lowest levels. They take that information and then they use it to question people at middle management, basically rolling up the organization until they get to the CEO at the top. And the fact that they've now finally gotten to the president, who is the head of the campaign, and gotten answers from him, to me indicates they've probably talked to all the witnesses they were intending to talk to in their investigation, and they're now going to do either simply writing a report on what their findings were or whatever final indictments they might have will come out.
Let's go now to the Hillary Clinton email investigation, and we've got James Comey, Loretta Lynch. Remember the tarmac meeting and all of the, there was a lot of scrutiny on all of that happened leading up to the 2016 election. Let's actually read a James Comey tweet here, which was from Friday. House Republicans can ask me anything they want, but I want the American people to watch, so let's have a public hearing. Truth is best served by transparency. Let me know when is convenient. The Republicans don't want this thing to be public, right?
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't have a problem with it being public, because then maybe Comey can explain why he made such a fundamental legal mistake, what I would consider malpractice, when he said that there wasn't sufficient evidence to put out an indictment against Hillary Clinton for the mishandling of classified information. He's just wrong. Any veteran prosecutor would have concluded that there was enough evidence for that, and he's got to explain why he made that decision. It looks like a partisan political decision, not one actually based on the facts and the law.
Okay. Hans, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
It is 18 minutes after the hour. Putting crime over politics. Democrats taking aim at Amazon over its move to New York City. But apparently they just can't keep their hands off the deals. How the online retail giant is making money off its biggest critics.
And from head of the State Department to head coach of the Cleveland Browns. I cannot figure this out. What Condoleezza Rice is saying about a potential new gig with the NFL. Stay tuned.
Good morning and welcome back. Walgreens and CVS being sued over the opioid crisis. Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi accuses the two pharmacy chains of failing to stop, quote, suspicious opioid orders. They're being added to a previous lawsuit against the maker of OxyContin and other opioid distributors. CVS says the lawsuit is without merit. Walgreens says it doesn't comment on pending litigation.
An experimental new treatment could be a, quote, game changer for kids with peanut allergies. Researchers in the U.S. and U.K. gave kids a drug made with a small amount of peanut proteins and then increased that amount over a few months, building up that immunity. And by the end, 2 of 3 kids could eat peanuts without any allergic reaction. Researchers hope to get FDA approval next year. More than 1 million kids in the United States have peanut allergies. Wow. Maybe then we could get the peanuts back on the airplanes, which I miss so much.
You could just buy your own.
Yeah, but they don't want them even on the plane. It's that dangerous.
So New York City Democrats slam Amazon in public, but they are still using the online service in private. Who doesn't, though?
Tracy Carrasco from our sister network Fox Business here with more on a bit of hypocrisy.
Yes,
hey,
good morning. There are a lot of politicians opposing the deal with Amazon coming here to New York City. Politicians like Senator Kirsten Gillibrand and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. But according to the New York Post, records show that both of their campaigns, in fact, use Amazon to order thousands of dollars in supplies. According to the Post, Ocasio-Cortez, her campaign spent about $10,000 in supplies on Amazon, also had an Amazon wish list, while Senator Gillibrand used about $2,000 to buy supplies on Amazon. Now, a spokesperson for Ocasio-Cortez told the Post that it isn't inconsistent for her to be an Amazon customer while opposing the, quote, corporate welfare, rather.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay, so Christmas coming a little early, it seems, for a lot of folks.
Yes, that's right. Economists say thanks to the falling oil prices and gas prices that Americans could be spending a little extra money this holiday season because they will have a little extra money. With this drop, Americans will save somewhere around $2 to $3 billion. That works out to about $20 to $40 per household. So the big question is, how long will these low oil and gas prices last? But it does come at a good time when a lot of people are traveling. Gas prices may be a little lower. Also, that extra money for the holiday shopping.
Yeah. Good news.
Yes.
Filled up for like $2.50 a gallon over the weekend.
Not in
like
New York City.
Christmas come early. No, it was out in Jersey, but it was still pretty good. All right, Tracy, thank you.
Thanks.
Fox News alert, border backlash. The people of Tijuana taking to the streets, protesting this migrant caravan and the thousands of people in it. The tensions boiling over and the brand new warning from the president.
I went against President Obama and Oprah Winfrey and Michelle Obama. I went down to Florida. Rick Scott won.
President Trump taking a victory lap for his midterm wins in key swing states. So, is this a preview of what to expect in 2020? GOP strategist Liz Copeland says the president may have just found his stride. She's live to talk about it next.
Welcome back. A Fox News alert. Get out. That is the message from many people living in Tijuana, Mexico, as they battle with this migrant caravan that is arriving by the hundreds and soon to be the thousands. President Trump now responding to the anger in northern Mexico.
And Todd Pyro joins us live with the message to illegals. Todd.
Jillian and Rob, good morning. A heated weekend in rhetoric and in reality. You can hear there the tensions boiling over. Hundreds of residents in the border city of Tijuana protesting the arrival of Central American migrants who they worry will linger in their city for months as they try to claim asylum in the U.S.
They don't need to be here. United States, the door is closed. Your country have to be beware of these people because they are people, they are bad people. So you have to support too and close the door.
All this as thousands of migrants continue to try to use American asylum laws to get into our country, something President Trump says is not going to happen en masse. He tweets, quote, "Catch and release is an obsolete term. It is now catch and detain. Illegal immigrants trying to come into the USA, often proudly flying the flag of their nation as they ask for U.S. asylum, will be detained or turned away. Dems must approve border security and wall now," with the president adding that he is not opposed to legal immigration.
We have millions of people online to get into our country legally, and those people have preference. They have to have preference. They've been waiting for a long time.
The mayor of Tijuana letting his displeasure with the migrants be known, calling it an invasion, saying his city is ill-prepared to handle it, and guessing that the backlog at the border could last 6 months. Right now, there are close to 6,000 U.S. troops deployed to our southern border, spread out across California, Arizona, and Texas. Rob, Jillian, back to you.
All right. Thank you, Todd. We now know what President Obama told President Trump in their first meeting in 2016, and the president says the advice has proved to be credible.
Toughest decision you've had to make as president?
Well, I think North Korea's been very tough because, you know, we were very close. When I took that over, President Obama, right in those two chairs, we sat and talked, and he said that's by far the biggest problem that this country has.
President Trump has made significant progress toward denuclearizing North Korea since taking office. Right now, American officials are working towards a second summit with Kim Jong-un. Democrat Stacey Abrams still bitter about her election defeat in Georgia. The failed gubernatorial candidate now refusing to call Republican Brian Kemp the legitimate governor-elect.
The law as it stands says that he received an adequate number of votes to become the governor of Georgia.
Is he the legitimate governor-elect of Georgia?
He is the person who won an adequate number of votes
but that's
to become the governor of
with all.
Abrams says the election was tainted and claims democracy failed in the state. Moments ago, a fresh load of supplies arriving at the International Space Station. The supply ship bringing more than 3 tons of cargo, including science gear, spacewalk equipment, and even ice cream. And here's a live look at the rocket. The space station crew will unload the cargo ship and repack it with trash before releasing it in February.
All right, President Trump taking a midterm victory lap as Democratic candidates finally concede in Florida's most closely watched races. And it comes on the heels of another Republican win just to the north in Georgia.
I went against President Obama and Oprah Winfrey and Michelle Obama in a great state called Georgia for the governor. And it was all stacked against Brian, and I was the one that went for Brian, and Brian won. Look at Florida. I went down to Florida. Rick Scott won, and he won by a lot.
All right, so what did the president learn from 2018 that he can now apply to the 2020 campaign? Here to weigh in on that, GOP strategist Liz Copeland. Liz, thanks for coming on this morning. He's pretty proud of Georgia and Florida. Florida, I think he's got a point. Georgia, though, is a red state. Should that have been that difficult to win, that governor's seat?
Well, I think the president was smart in going to the states, specifically in Georgia. You know, he rolled out what we think we're going to see for his 2020 his re-election campaign. And the most important thing is that when our president goes to these states, he speaks directly to the voters, and they love it. They love what he has to say. They love that he's here. And you can really see this repeated all across this country for his re-election. And even in the Senate, you know, the president was able to help bring in a few more Republican seats in the Senate. You spoke about Florida. That was a tough fight. It was a really tough fight, even down to, you know, several votes. And, you know, we came out ahead.
Yeah. You know, Chris Wallace did the interview yesterday with the president on the Fox News Sunday. You know, one of the points he really tried to push home was that a lot of voters really love what the administration's doing, the work they're doing, but they have a lot of issues with the president's rhetoric and his behavior. There was a lot of things that he should have learned from the midterms, I think. He lost a lot of support in the suburbs, it appears, and a lot of places that probably should be red are now blue. Do you think he learned any lessons?
Well, I think that the most important lesson that he took away, that there was a blue splash, I wouldn't call it a wave, but it was blocked by a red wall in the rural areas. He still has, very strong support in the rural areas, and that's what counts when we need to get to 270 votes, electoral votes, to make sure that we win.
But that's not all that counts. I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, if you look at Orange County in California, which is now completely blue. I mean, look at how tight it was in Texas. Texas is a red state. That Senate race with Ted Cruz was very tight. There's examples like that.
It was tight, but
that should make him nervous, I would think.
Well, I think it makes us pay attention. I'm not quite certain it should make us nervous. Beto O'Rourke was not able to win in Texas, and we expected for there to be an increase in blue on the coastal cities. That's not anything that's new. That's been trending that way for several years now. What the president really needs to focus on is his supporters. The issues that are very important, of course, the immigration, but you also have to think about it. Consumer confidence is up. The economy is doing well. There are more jobs in this country than they were before he took office. And those are the things that are going to drive the voters to the polls. The economy was certainly a big boost for the Republicans. Absolutely. Let's talk about the Florida election, the mishaps that we saw in Broward and Palm Beach counties. Brenda Snipes is leaving her post after this election and says that she believes that racism was probably some type of a factor in the attacks against her regarding her handling of Broward County in this election. What do you think about that? I think Democrats love to talk about identity politics. Instead of focusing on the rightful administration, how to handle the electoral process, and the issues that are at hand here, that when the things don't go their way, when they lose, they throw that term out far too frequently. Yeah, it's interesting. There's been a lot of criticism of her through the years with numerous elections. All right, thank you so much, Liz. We appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
It is just about 37 minutes after the hour. President Trump just weighed in on his White House report card.
Where do you rank yourself in the pantheon of great presidents?
I think I'm doing a great job. We have the best economy we've ever had.
All right, does he make your grade? And what grade did he give himself? Carly Shimkus live next with the social media reaction to this. Good morning, Carly.
Good morning. Welcome back. President Trump patting himself on the back when asked about his performance as president in a Fox News Sunday exclusive interview. Take a look at this.
I think I'm doing a great job. We have the best economy we've ever had. Look, I hate to do it, but I will do it. I would give myself an A+. Is that enough? Can I go higher than that?
Would you expect anything else? Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines, 24/7 Sirius XM 115, here with online reaction on that grade from the president to himself.
Yeah, isn't the rule during job interviews to give yourself an A- or a B+? Well, not the president, who gave himself a better than perfect midterm rating. There are many people, though, who would disagree with that, as his approval rating is at around 47%. But still, there are a whole bunch of folks who are all in on Trump 2020, like this slate of Twitter users right here. Let's see if we can get to some reaction. All right, good. JT says, what an excellent interview, Mr. President. You are the best president in history, sir. So very high praise from that Twitter user. Ken also says he has done in 2 years what some presidents can't in 2 terms. And lastly, another Twitter user writing in saying A+ from me. So the president has consistently given himself high approval ratings when asked to rate himself. Like you said, Rob, no surprise there.
I'm so confused by this next story, because I would assume that to be the head coach of a football team, you would have had to have been in football for some amount of time.
Yeah, so ESPN reported yesterday that the Cleveland Browns are considering former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice to be their head coach, but both Rice and the Browns now batting down those rumors. Rice taking to Facebook saying, I love my Browns and I know they will hire an experienced coach to take us to the next level. I do hope that the NFL will start to bring women into the coaching profession. I'm not ready to coach, but I would like to
to call a play or two next season if the Browns need ideas. The Browns also weighing in on Rice, saying she is a great leader, possesses the highest possible character, but we are still in the process of composing the list of candidates, and Secretary Rice has not been discussed. So both debunking that rumor. So everybody, Rob, like you said, agrees that you do need some coaching experience to become the head coach of an NFL team. But Colin on Twitter says, in defense of the Cleveland Browns, what has hiring actual football coaches gotten them in the last 50 years? Another Twitter user, Paul, saying this would be the most Browns thing the Browns would do. And Chris on Twitter writing, I have a pretty stellar Madden record. Maybe I could apply.
I mean, look, anyone could do better than Hugh Jackson. 3 wins in 40 games. I mean, that's not really.
I bet I could do worse.
Now.
So no Coach Rice.
All right, for now, I guess.
Carly, thanks so much.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Nancy Pelosi gaining support from an unlikely source, that of President Trump.
If she needs any votes, if she asks me, I will give her the votes to put her over the top.
But with mounting disapproval from her own party, can she take back the gavel in January? We're going to debate that coming up.
Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Ducey. Coming up 12 minutes from right now, right here on this channel, we got a bunch of great guests to talk about the news of the day. The incoming governor of the great state of Florida, Ron DeSantis, is going to be joining us live. Also, Rick Scott, the governor of Florida currently, who is the senator-elect. We'll be talking about the state of the race down there after Bill Nelson has finally conceded. Also, Trey Gowdy, member of Congress, he is co-sponsor of a bill that would actually honor the men who were killed in Benghazi with medals of honor. And Alan West, Lieutenant Colonel, is going to be joining us to talk about the very latest of the caravan. So we got a busy 3 hours. Kicks off, Rob, just about 12 minutes from right now, right here on the channel everybody trusts for their morning news.
Fresh from South Florida on a Monday morning. Steve Ducey, thank you so much. Congressman-elect and former Navy SEAL Dan Crenshaw silences a political panel. Listen to what he says during a discussion about the president's attacks on the press.
How is that an attack on the press, though?
Because it's literally an attack.
Oh, I've literally been attacked, so let's choose our words carefully. Style is one thing. If you want to criticize style, I'm with you, right? But to say it's an attack on the freedom of the press, that is a very bold statement.
The Texas Republican lost his eye from an IED blast while serving in Afghanistan. Blue Lives Matter is calling out Democratic Mayor Bill de Blasio and Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York. The pro-cop group wants them to overturn a decision not to honor the first NYPD officer who was killed in Iraq. A community board rejected a ceremonial street renaming for Staff Sergeant Jimmy McNaughton, who was shot and killed by a sniper in Baghdad in 2005. An online petition supporting the renaming has over 5,400 signatures. Jillian.
Nancy Pelosi is facing a challenge from members of her own party in her quest to become Speaker of the House. But she's getting support from an unlikely source, President Trump.
I like Nancy Pelosi. I mean, she's tough and she's smart, but she deserves to be Speaker. And now they're playing games with her. There's nobody else should be Speaker. If she needs any votes, if she asks me, I will give her the votes to put her over the top.
Democrats won't be voting until after Thanksgiving. So does the timing spell trouble for Pelosi? Here now to debate is political analyst Rochelle Ritchie and conservative radio talk show host Shondell Summer. Thank you both for joining us. Rochelle, I want to start with you. What do you make of what you just heard from President Trump?
Well, you know, I have to wonder exactly why the president is supporting Pelosi. And I wonder what is in it for the president. I mean, this doesn't really seem like someone he would want to support. I mean, she's a powerhouse as a speaker, and she's a powerhouse for the Democratic Party as well as far as raising funds. But I will say that there is some risk, obviously, with ousting Pelosi. I mean, she has the experience, she has the ability, like I said, to raise money. But I think that she does not recognize who her supporters are. And when you think about this, black women have been the base, the backbone of the Democratic Party, and yet we have not had a seat at the leadership table ever. 1789. That's how long it's never happened for African American women since 1789. So I think that it's time for Democrats to stop using the votes of black people while ignoring our voice.
Shondell, so far about 20 Democrats oppose Nancy Pelosi. Who knows what happens as this draws closer. What do you make of it?
Good morning, Jillian. I think that what you have right now is a little bit of a coup, but not enough to really overtake Nancy Pelosi. They would need about 28 votes to overturn the speakership and have it go to someone else. Right now, there's been a challenger, Marcia Fudge from Ohio, who is a black woman who is challenging Nancy Pelosi, but it's probably just an attempt to obtain a better committee assignment or some type of concessions from Nancy Pelosi, and political favors being what they are.
Yeah, Rochelle, do you think part of the problem is there's no other real clear frontrunner to be able to go against her?
I think that's true. I mean, right now we really don't have a contender, like a strong contender that we're seeing come out. But I think that after Thanksgiving, a lot of people, members will make their decision on whether or not they're going to run. And Marcia Fudge is one of those, as well as I believe Hakeem Jeffries, who is running for chair as well. So look, I think that, Pelosi is a powerhouse in the Democratic Party, but, the president supporting her just makes me wonder why? What is in it for him? It almost seems as if he's supporting her to get her out because, the president is not very popular, obviously, with Democrats, especially the newcomers that came in. So it seems that him supporting her is a way to actually push her out, which could ultimately end up hurting the party in 2020 when it comes to raising funds.
No, look, none of us know what the president's thinking. Obviously, we hear what he says. I want to ask both of you this question. Shondell, I want to start with you. I wonder, again, just a question, if having Nancy Pelosi as the front runner, as the Speaker of the House, is going to put more of a rift in the Democratic Party, because look, a lot of people do oppose her. A lot of people don't want her in that role, but because there is no one else right now, do you think that could potentially cause more problems?
I think that the rift in the Democratic Party is not only the gender rift and the black women in the Democratic Party wanting someone else, but it's also generational. She's 78 years old. The other two members of the leadership, Steny Hoyer and James Clyburn, are also both in their late 70s. So there's a generation. The fact that they all the new members of the House ran on this idea of change, they represent sort of the establishment, just like the Republicans had the same issue last week with the election of Kevin McCarthy and Jim Jordan's challenge to Kevin McCarthy. You have the same thing going on within the Democratic Party. But it would be so short-sighted for the Democratic Party to ignore the fact that Nancy Pelosi has been in power for this long. She's part of the reason they're in power now.
You can't deny her experience.
For President Trump to support her tells me that he wants another poster child for the next election to say this is what you're getting with the Democratic Party. He'd probably rather have Maxine Waters, Speaker of the House, but Nancy Pelosi is a nice second choice.
We got to run, so I just want to give Rochelle the last couple seconds here. Rochelle, if the Democrats can't come together on this, do you think that's going to ultimately cause more problems?
I think it could cause more problems, so I think they definitely have to unify. And if it's Pelosi, if she's the one that has the votes, then they have to get behind her, because I don't think causing more division is going to be good for them in 2020.
All right. Thank you both for your time. We appreciate it. We're coming right back.